Better? There we go. Sorry. I'm Barbara Bonney, this morning's worship associate. We're glad you have joined us today, both in person and hello. Hello. Yes, it's okay. All right. I've been asked to repeat the acknowledgement of flowers because the mic wasn't on. The flowers today are from Joni Justiniano in loving memory of Vinnie Moser, who should have had a chance to turn 29 this week. As Ray Sinclair lights our chalice this morning, I will read the prayer of St. Francis. It was not written by St. Francis. The prayer was discovered in 1912, a French prayer, and is also called the Peace Prayer because of its compelling and universal sentiments. There. We light our chalice as we imagine and pray that we become an instrument of peace. We imagine where there is hatred, we sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. May we not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood than to understand, to be loved than to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying that we are born back into the cosmos of eternal and unending love. Our first hymn this morning is one of the many renditions of the Peace Prayer, or Prayer of St. Francis, today sung by David Tarbell.
Make me an instrument of peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is injury, let healing come. And where there's doubt, have faith in us. Make me an instrument of peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, only light. And where there's sadness, ever joy. Goodness grant that I may never seek so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me an instrument of peace. Only in pardoning are we so pardoned. In giving of ourselves do we receive. Dying, we fulfill the cycle of life.
Today's story for all ages is offered by Ellen Wathen.
Okay, great. So Isla and Elliot and Clara and Thaddeus, you can just sit down on the rug over there. Yeah. And I'm going to read you a story. And raise your hand if you love animals. Very good. I'm glad. Okay. Now, raise your hand if you want to tell me what your favorite animal is. Isla, a cheetah, and Elliot, a zebra, Thaddeus, lion, wow. Clara, a horse, wow. How about when you're walking down the street, or when you go in the park, or when you go in your backyard, what are some of the animals you might see there? The wild animals in your backyard or in the park? What are some of the animals there? Deer? Yes? A bull? A bird, I'm sorry. Oh, a bird, yes, of course, lots of birds. Very, very good. Anybody else? Thaddeus, can you think of it? Clara, any animals in your backyard or in the park? Dogs, yeah, very good. Well, today, Mary Tarbell-Green is going to give the service, and the children, you children are going to stay in the service for the whole service. You're not going to go to your Sunday class today, and you're going to listen to the sermon. And today, the sermon that Mary gives is going to be on a famous person named St. Francis. And St. Francis, he was known for his love of animals, and he loved poor people, and he loved peace. He was a very good person. And there's even a picture of him on the order of service today. You can look at it when you're with your parents. And today I'm going to read you a story about a little girl who also loved animals. The story is called Play With Me. She loved animals, and she went into her backyard, and she tried to play with all the animals she found out there, but they all ran away from her. So she did something, and we're going to find out what she did in this story. Okay. The sun was up, and there was dew on the grass, and I went to the meadow to play. And there's the little girl, and she's going down into the meadow, and there's the sun. She's going down to play. A grasshopper sat on the leaf of a weed. He was eating it up for his breakfast. Grasshopper, I said, will you play with me? And I tried to catch him, but he leaped away. There he goes, up into the tree. She's trying to catch him, but he leaped away. A frog stopped jumping and sat down by the pond. I think he was waiting to catch a mosquito. Frog, I said, will you play with me? And I tried to catch him, but he leaped away too. She couldn't catch him. A turtle was sitting on the end of a log. He was just sitting still, getting. A rabbit was sitting behind the oak tree. He was wiggling his nose and nibbling a flower. Rabbit, I said, will you play with me? And I tried to catch him, but he ran into the woods. There he goes. A snake came threading through the grass, zigzagging and sliding the way snakes do. There's this little snake. It's just a garden snake. It's not a poisonous one. Snake, I said, will you play with me? But even the snake ran away down his hole. None of them would play with me. So I picked a milkweed and I blew off its seeds. And then I went to the pond and I sat down on a rock. And I watched a bug making trails on the water. Just look at her. How do you think she feels? Sad, yeah. And as I sat there without making a sound, Grasshopper came back and sat down beside me. There's Grasshopper. And Frog came back and sat down in the grass. There's Frog. And Slowpoke Turtle crawled back on his log. And Chipmunk came and watched me and chattered. Where's Chipmunk? There he is, Chipmunk. And Blue Jay came back to his bough overhead, Blue Jay. And Rabbit came back and hopped around me. There's Rabbit. And Snake came out of his hole. There's little Snake. And as I sat there without making a sound, so they wouldn't get scared and run away, out from the bushes where he had been hiding came a baby fawn and looked at me. Aw. She's just looking, her eyes are looking over at him. I held my breath, and he came nearer. He came so near I could have touched him. But I didn't move, and I didn't speak. And Fawn came up and licked my cheek. Look at that. He's licking her. Oh, now I was happy, as happy could be, for all of them were playing with me. Look at them, they're all around her now. So, why do you think they came back and sat with her? What changed? What was different? Why did they come back? Clara?
When she was asking all of them, she was running towards them, and then when she sat on it, she was calming people, and all the animals came back.
Yes, so she was chasing them, and they didn't like that. But then when she sat and was calm and peaceful, they came back. So sometimes animals like you to be kind of calm and peaceful and quiet. So that's the story today. And now what we're going to do is you're going to stay in the service, and you can either stay here in the VIP lounge, or you can go and sit with your parents. And we're going to give you, everybody's going to get a clipboard with some paper and a package of crayons, and you can draw anything, but what you might draw is a picture of your favorite animals, and maybe even a picture of yourself sitting next to your favorite animal, okay? And then afterwards, we can just put the crayons back in the basket. So here, Isla and Elliot. Thaddeus.
And that means there's no children's processional today, recessional. Once a month, we at First U select an organization or a cause for which we collect funds as part of our congregation's outreach. We call this effort Share the Plate. This month's Share the Plate is the Carter Social Justice Fund. To learn more, please look at our First Church website to learn about the Carters, and we ask you to be generous in your kind donations. If throughout the month you choose to make a donation online rather than in the offering plate, please specify Share the Plate when you make your donation. If you choose to mail in a check, please note Share the Plate on the memo line of your check. If you are unable to make a financial donation at this time, please consider sending a card, leaving a voicemail, or just saying thank you the next time you see them.
Am I on? We're going to use the share the plate as well as the time of silence. I brought my boyfriend, and he is going to play Bring It Home, but before he does that, oh no. This is from Les Mis. And the lyrics are, God on high, hear my prayer, in my need, you have always been there. And he's singing this to what he hoped would be his son. He is young, and he's off to war, the son. He is young, he's afraid, let him rest, heaven blessed. Bring him home, bring him home, bring him home. He's like the son I might have known if God had granted me a son. The summers die one by one, how soon they fly on and on. And I am old and will be gone. Bring him peace and bring him joy. He is young. He's only a boy. You can take and you can give. Let him be. Let him live. If I die, let me die. Let him live. Bring him home. Bring him home. Bring him home. It's a pretty hard act to follow. We take a deep breath after that. I have a couple announcements. First, I'm back. If you were here last week, here I am again. I want to thank Alex and this community for last week. And I met with Tim Krause, and he and I decided that Alex didn't get an installation per se. He came, showed up, and hit the ground running. So we're going to have a parade for him in September. No, I'm only kidding, but we're going to do something because when you look at the religious education, when you look at how we've grown, when you look at the peace that's come, when you look at how we're growing deeper into love, I want to thank Alex for that growing up that we're doing. The second thing is we're going to have some pretty big storms this afternoon, and we have had St. Francis, if this was a term back then, was huge with ecology. You know, what they talked about, the kids talked about, was that he was able to quiet himself and allow nature to come to him. He didn't go out. And yet, I don't know that back then they had the tornadoes and whatever that we have right now today. So it's a scary time for us as we decide what we can do. One of the things that we can do is Matthew 25 is kind of like a goodwill what do you call it? Exactly. And so they're in Blue Ash, but part of their ministry is specifically for fires, all the fires that happened in Kentucky at one time, and the tornadoes. And you can go online or you can call them and say, because right now they're in Iowa. Matthew 25 has taken whatever was needed and requested and gone to Iowa to deliver. So please consider in whatever way that you can to donate, not to Goodwill necessarily as much as Matthew 25 today, because they specify what's going on right now, and that's that we're in this huge, unheard of tornado season. So that's my plug. Was St. Francis a Unitarian in disguise? I read every day from Richard Rohr, who himself is a Franciscan. He's in New Mexico, and he's a Catholic priest, brother, but his theology, if you will, is very universal, very inclusive. And he's been talking a lot about St. Francis. And so I thought, make me an instrument of your peace. That's the first. I'm echoing. So can you imagine that you woke up in the morning and said quietly to the universe, to God, to whatever the God of your understanding is, make me an instrument of your peace? And what would that have been like in terms of your intention? So the words have long been assigned to St. Francis of Assisi, and they were found, if you will, in 1912. And they've been made into a number of different iterations of prayer. They've been made into the song that David sung. And they've been made into a intention that we take these words of this prayer and make it become us. St. Francis was very wealthy, and he had, if you will, a come to Jesus of his own. He had a spiritual awakening, and he let go of all of his clothes from his family, and he put on a robe and a belt with knots in it that signify something. And we have Roger Bacon here in Cincinnati, Roger Bacon High School. The brothers there are Franciscans. And just a little plug, our son Zach, who made the music stand, went to Roger Bacon. We had 3 kids, Barry and I had 3 kids, and I wanted them all to go to the same school and be a big happy family, a blended family, and they fought like crazy. So Zach went to Roger Bacon, Rich went to Walnut Hills, and Adam went to SCPA. And Zach was the only Jewish kid at Roger Bacon. And he loved it, and they loved him. It was a wonderful, because it's a very inclusive theology coming from St. Francis. So we hear this prayer, charge, petition, and I think today we can use it more than ever. He was on the road preaching, St. Francis, and he stopped and paused and looked at birds up in the tree, and like they said, like the story said, he was very quiet, and they came to him, and thus began a conversation between he and the birds, and thus became his ministry. So he was able to be present with all of life, in particular animals, so therefore ecology, have a reverence for his planet, and also for the underprivileged, in particular the poor, and in particular lepers. So this man had something going on. It was his sheer stillness and presence that invited the birds to feel engaged rather than endangered or threatened. Our own covenant, our own universalist covenant, invites us to, quote, love and respect all of creation. That's our charge. Quote, to listen with an open mind for justice and inclusion. Quote, to have the courage to change. So did we dip into the 12 steps, or did the 12 steps dip into us, like the Serenity Prayer, the courage to change? And to humbly covenant each other together, that it's only together that we cannot do alone. So we're not an isolated, go off into the desert and pray by yourself, which I'm sure Francis did, but we're invited to do this in community. So there was St. Francis in his quiet and still manner, communing with the birds and holding true our very own covenant. His teachings were the living our covenant, where he lived and taught being courteous and respectful to all. He taught and cherished and lived interconnectedness. That, my friends, is key. He stops for a bird, he marvels at a bee, he sees that life, you and me, in our being, is always, in all ways, connected. In Francis's life, he's known to always tell these creatures that it is by their very, now this is his Catholic theology, so take it in your own words. By their very existence, they are inherently, in his beliefs, giving glory to God. So he didn't say, boy, am I the one that the birds are coming to. He said, this is because of our breath, which is all one. And so by our very existence, they are connected to and with each other. We are connected to and with each other. You may not call it God, but you too are stunned into silence when you see the beauty of a hawk or the center of an orchid. It's then what we do with those. It's then what we help sustain that sense of oneness between us and the hawk, between us and that beauty inside the orchid, before we return to our simple, judgmental, and disconnected self. The great teacher and activist saint in her own right, Dorothy Day, said, quote, greatest challenges of the day is how to bring about a revolution of the heart, a revolution which must start with each one of us, which brings us again back to our UU principles of the beliefs in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, the respect for and the interdependence of all existence, of which we are a part. Imagine that. Imagine we hear our principles or covenant, and like Francis, we're stunned into silence of the possibility that out into this world today of chaos and Gaza and guns and Ukraine, we can connect. But to do this, to be that imagining, to be able to experience joy and love and beauty on this planet, within ourselves and with each other, to find equanimity in difficult times, we must do that even as suffering increases. We do this not by avoiding the long dark of despair, but facing and moving into it and with it. The awareness of connection that so guided Francis's life, the sentiments embedded in our covenant and principles, has the power to ground us even when this world is chaotic. There are two authors, La Yura Schmidt and Amy Lewis Ray, and they go on to say that connection gives our lives meaning and offers joy even in the midst of dark, especially when we invest ourselves into meaningful action, which our church does, the kind that promotes relationship and regeneration. Meaningful action can be a salve for painful feelings like eco-anxiety and eco-distress, climate grief, violence. These meaningful actions that we do because it's what needs to be done, it fills us with purpose, laying the groundwork for a heart-centered revolution, diving deep in the kind of love that Alex speaks of, where we are centered in our relationships, we are centered in our connectedness, and we love in times of suffering, and we love in times of disconnect. Our decisions that we make based on compassion, based on our own inner sense of equanimity. And we help one another cultivate opportunities of a just and a love-centered world. Francis preached this. His partner St. Clare preached this. Dorothy Day preached this. Martin Luther King preached this. And then here is what Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis goes on to say, that you are the only one standing where you stand, seeing what you see with your vantage point, your story. You are right here for a reason, to really see, fully awaken to the hot mess times that we're in, and to the incredible power that we have to love ourselves into wellness, into possibility, and into imagining acts of peace. I want to end with David White, the poet. I love David White, who, like Mary Oliver, implores the same need and prayer for connection in his poem as he writes, I want to walk through the world amazed and inarticulate with thanks. I want to know when I lean down to the lilies by the water and feel their small and perfect reflection on my face. I want to know what I am and what I'm involved with by loving this world as I do. I want to be found by love. I want to come alive in the holiness of this simple belonging. So we're going to have closing words that are unique. They're going to come in the form of a video, and the video is, of course, John Lennon, Imagine. But it's also us going deep into that center of the
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. And no hell below us. And above us is only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. nothing to kill or die for, no religion too. Imagine all the people living life for peace. You, and you may say that I'm a dreamer, but I am not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger, a brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You, and you may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
And our candle had a life of its own, extinguishing itself because it gave the light that it needed to give. And so our services ended, and we will end with a beautiful rendition of our fine musicians, David, Jarrah, and Barry, of Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Mary, is this in honor of tornado season? Is this in honor of tornado season? The song choice?
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Over the rainbow, skies are blue, and those dreams that you dare to dream surely will come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where worries melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow, blue fly over the rainbow, why then, oh why can't I? Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where worries melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If little birds fly past the rainbow,